Ladies and gentlemen, before we dive into the proceedings of the panel discussion, we have a special talk on the concept of DRE. This will be delivered by none other than the chairman of Desi Power, Dr. H N Sharan, who is an eminent personality who needs no introduction, who's specially flown in from Switzerland to be a part of this conference. Let's join hands in welcoming Dr. H N Sharan, ladies and gentlemen, for a special talk first, and then we delve into the deliberations of this discussion. So.
Thank you very much, dear friends. It's very nice to be here again after a long time. And I thank PFI and Sahaji for inviting me to participate in this meeting. I would very much like to you have been hearing this morning all about what the future holds for us in the renewable energy sector. Maybe I'll take a minute or two to be a bit nostalgic and say it's almost 50 years ago that I had the privilege to make the very first presentation on renewable energy to the then Minister of Power in his room, where it was the times of the first oil shock and the big efforts that were on at that time to see how to manage, especially the rural areas, which were almost practically 100% dependent on diesel fuel in those days. Of course, at that time, there was no MNRE, there was no MNES. There was one coordinator in PMO's office, and the entire renewable energy program was managed from Department of Science and Technology with a small team who were trying very hard to get R&D going from the universities, CSIR labs, Indian Institute of Science and IITs, and so on. I had the privilege to spearhead the industrial part of the renewable energy program, and BHEL took the lead. I used to be at that time the director of engineering of BHEL, and we at that time tried to industrialize right from the beginning, what happened in the labs, bring them to the field as quickly as possible. I remember very well the first solar thermal plant that was one of the first that was built in the country on the rooftop of Qutub Hotel in Delhi. The other interesting point was right from the beginning, the solar system, we built a plant in BHEL Hyderabad. The generator factory used to use open fires during the cold months, and that affected the quality of our generators. So we built a solar thermal plant with pipe heating from the top to heat an entire factory. And of course, that was the part of our sensitization program. The PM's house got a solar heating system for the Prime Minister's bathroom. Early biogas plants, the engines were tested in Hyderabad for dual fuel applications. I remember going to a small village in Haryana, sitting with the farmer there who had the biogas plant, and this old man says to me, you know, what is marvelous is any time I want a cup of tea, I can have it. And biogas at that time, compressed biogas, it was a little pillow. And you pressurized it by keeping a weight, bricks, which kept the pressure on the pillow and ran a small burner. So these are, of course, one of our pride at that time was also that we built one of the first globally, a 10 kilowatt solar thermal power station on IIT Madras, on the roof of the IIT Madras. It was commissioned in 1978, and it was an augmented solar thermal, flat plate collectors. We had a 10 kilowatt plant, and we were really very proud of it. Now, of course, all of you know much more about renewable technologies than I do, and I am so very happy that we are today discussing this whole theme of decentralized renewable energy. Increasing global temperatures had not been recognized at that time as one of the reasons for introducing renewable energy. For us, it was entirely a matter of social and economic development of the country. And the role of solar and renewable energy was supposed to be focused on poverty alleviation in the villages. And that role of this DREs is still as valid today as it was way back in late 70s. As you also know very well, technology is no longer an issue. We don't have to, technology is no longer an issue. Costs have dropped, and they are dropped well below what we at that time projected as the break-even levels for a renewable energy power station. I built in where I live in Switzerland a solar thermal power station in 1992, which is still running, a 6 kilowatt power station. It cost us $15 per kilowatt, per watt at that time. And you know what the comparison is. But people still come all over. It's one of the few plants where they come to see that a PV plant can really run for 30 years and produce, even today, 70 to 75% of its rated capacity. So these are the type of things which we have to look at. And while fossil fuels have not yet receded to the extent that's required from the climate change issues, renewable energy is increasingly taking a bigger part globally and in India of the total energy scene. But the way this has to be done, I believe very strongly, and I'm very grateful that Mr. Saha has brought this up, to see how do we integrate DREs into the total energy and rural development programs of India. In spite of all the progress, I still am quite actively involved in villages in India. And I must say, in the area of social and economic development, there are large parts of our villagers who are well below where they should be. And I believe tomorrow, as you know, electricity for productive purposes is the driver of any country's economy. Electricity only for lighting is very good for the household, but it certainly cannot drive the social and economic progress of the villages. So we, right from the beginning, we built our first DRE from Desi Power in 1996. It was a 100 kilowatt power station, a handmade paper factory in Jhansi. It ran for 70,000 hours. We built the first microgrid, hybrid microgrid of PV and in 206, is still running today. So tomorrow, the primary driver of social and economic developments is electricity, and today also process energy for various agricultural requirements. The trigger, this has triggered in different ways of planning and as Mr. Saha said in his speech, viable business plans with the private sector, with the support of a regulatory environment from the government. So for us in India, traditional electrification programs, which have not yet, even today, with lines in every village, not reached the goal of adequate amounts of electricity being available for job creation, for agriculture, and so on. Today, when I'm interacting with a group of 15 countries from Africa and Pacific Islands, and their slogan for this whole program is energy, water, agriculture, and jobs. Now, this is the way where tomorrow's projects have to be assessed. And more and more countries of the global south are recognizing that we really have to look at the entire planning process for DREs at the national planning levels, but also at the level of each project that is built. As we know very well, no renewable energy today by itself is adequate for meeting the productive, social, and economic needs of a village. We have therefore to optimize locally the resources which are available in terms of energy, in terms of value addition, in terms of job creation, in terms of pumping, and that the moment you also have, on the one side, a variety of loads, and on the other side, a variety of generators, it's a complex system. Simple spreadsheet calculations today are not adequate for preparing business plans which fulfill the 4 or 5 essential conditions for making a success of DREs. I have had a large number of failures in my life. We built something like 60 or 70 village power stations. A lot of them were technology development programs, technologies which could be run by the villagers. That was our goal. It's not enough just to have a machine, but how does the villager run it? How does he maintain it? How is it integrated in the village system? Those are an essential part. And I am talking not about DREs for the industrial applications. I am talking of DREs for the village applications. So the integration of the entire energy system in the village in a viable way, from my failures, I have 5 points which every one of us who wants to do anything in the renewable area should remember. First of all, DRE-driven microgrids must provide dependable reliability. We have failed to do that. And round-the-clock electricity to the consumer, whether it's household, commercial, or industrial load. Which means that losses, the storage system becomes very important. Biogas, biomass, all these have in the context of 8,700 hours in the year. They cannot meet the criteria of reliability by themselves. So there is no way that you can today make a village DRE project without hybridizing the generation side. The moment you hybridize it and do the planning of the profitability on the basis of meeting 24 times 7 load, you have a very complex system on your hands. So last 3 or 4 years, with my colleagues in India, with some colleagues in America, we have developed a system dynamics model and made them cheap enough to be done here in this country, so that everybody who wants to build a DRE, please do a system analysis, collect data. We have all the experience, all of us have experience about collecting data from the villages, data on the energy sources, and do a first cut, a study of a model. The model doesn't give you solutions. What the model does is to tell you, if you did this combination, this configuration, this rating, you will have this economics. These are your target goals. This is how they will be fulfilled. It's up to the investor, up to the builder then to choose what combination he wants. And then please go into the feasibility phase. At the moment, we are completely product-driven. We have panels of this size, we have engines of this size, we put them together, and most of our microgrids today are either over-invested or under-invested, but none of them can meet the criteria of reliability at the lowest cost and with profitability. So 2 criteria that I have for DREs: they must be reliable round the clock, and they must provide a profit to the promoter of that project. Linked to me, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind, I do not know how many of you believe in that, if we linked DREs to the 92,700 panchayats that we have in this country. We have done our numbers, and I can tell you the DREs can take the load of providing adequate amounts of electricity, process energy, and social services needs of energy in all the villages of India. And that at a rate which creates jobs at the lowest cost. The job creation in a village is much lower than job creation in the industrialized sector. The cost of CO2 saving in DRE for a village project is virtually zero. We are investing in development. We are not investing in CO2 saving. So we don't have to cost the saving like that. And in a 500 kilowatt, 500 kilowatt total energy system where we provide the heating energy from the waste heat from biomass, where we have a PV and we run a tea garden, for example, you can earn $20,000 per year just from the CO2 savings. The most important thing that I would like to mention here is also that financial packaging is an equal part of this modeling that we do. It's not just the technical modeling. The financial packaging also has to have different models. If, for example, a tea estate has a lot of biomass, they just have to capitalize their biomass as an input to the energy plant for 7 years. They don't need any extra money for their equity capital if you are doing a 70-30 capital sharing. There are patient investors who say, as long as you are servicing the loan, we don't take a dividend. I can bring you investors like that. So basically, it's not just innovation in the technological areas that is needed. It's needed the linking of technological innovation with the financial innovation is required. And last but not the least, right from the beginning, training and skills development has to be a part of the project. It's not an add-on. It's not that we have to send somebody to ITI. It has to be a part of the project from that village. We have run a training center in an area for the last 25 years. And we have trained maybe 600 or 800 people. Most of them are no longer with Desi Power. But they know how to run a gasifier. We have a lady in Baharwari who runs our power station, which is a hybrid power station of about 30 kilowatt. So training, skills development as a part of the project, including the cost of that development, should be included. And please remember, and I do want to emphasize that, badly performing decentralized renewable energy systems are the greatest deterrent to the investors and promoters. Our track record on microgrids as a tool of village development is pretty poor. We have microgrids, a large number, which are largely focused, they are changing, no doubt about it. But at the moment, we have very, very few successful examples of DREs with microgrids at the village level. And that, in spite of the fact that we have all the resources and we have all the know-how and so on. And I personally believe that we are just going about it the wrong way for planning and implementation together with the prospective promoters. But as we all know, the proof of the pudding is in eating it. So unless we have a sizable number of DREs running with the two main criteria of reliability and profitability, delivering the impacts on the social and economic development of the villages, investors will not come and invest. And the governments today are not, policy-wise, whatever, they are not today the primary investors in this sector. It has to come from the private sector. So from my part, I am absolutely also prepared to put my time, my money, where my mouth is, to promote in properly packaged, properly optimized, 1 or 2 DRE systems in some villages, some village in India. And I will work provided you have a competent and committed management team to work with us. Thank you very much.